Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A couple of life's truth-isms. Number one, a flashlight is defined as being a case for holding dead batteries. And here's one that I thought you would appreciate. God gave you toes as a device for finding furniture in the dark. Oh, can I relate to that? Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. It's October 1 today. Oh, thank you very much, Kate Smith. God bless America. I certainly hope he will again. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and also some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services. Getting rid of your garbage. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. And at this time, we always look across the river and through the trees to Gina's house we go. Good morning, Gina. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
We've got so much in the news, I had to pick and choose what I was going to talk about this morning. It's absolutely a potpourri of a mess.
Aren't you kidding? And happy to get back into the topics, but there's a lot of stuff going on that needs attention.
Scary stuff.
Very.
Scary stuff.
Yes.
You know, I just want to say this up front, and I don't know how you're going to respond to this, but I think you're going to be over on my side of the microphone. Okay. We, as an American public, have lost the shining light of remembering the first 3 words of the Constitution, we the people, yes. And we're letting, that's the key word, we're letting people in 3-piece suits and wingtip shoes, yes, that call themselves politicians, we are letting them lead us by the nose into oblivion.
You are not going to get an argument out of me on that one. I think that you are spot on correct. And we, the people, need to stand up.
Amen. You know, I'm going to talk about the Ebola problem a little later on. I'm going to talk about the incompetency and, quite frankly, the idiocy of the Secret Service, and it gets worse from there.
I know. It's like we're on the downhill slide to nowhere.
Oh, give me sanity this morning.
Okay.
Do we have Kate Smith? Oh, we had Kate Smith.
We already had Kate Smith. As far as the pledge is concerned, me, you, or Michael?
Oh, you always do a good job. Go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very, very well done. Thank you, Gina. And right now I want to remind everybody that Cheney Flooring and Home Design, holy smokes, they're already putting up Halloween decorations, and then they're getting ready for the Christmas season. Oh, my goodness. Whitney's got great artistic ability, and they've got all kinds of repurposed dressers in at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. You better stop in. And they're going to be at the craft fair over at the Rupert High School in October, too. This is October now, October 1. So check it out, and they will meet or beat any price on flooring at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
It's going to be a nice day, and it's going to be cool, too. 61 for the high. You're not going to see the 70s until Thursday. Make that Friday going into the weekend. You'll see 71 on Friday, 75 on Saturday. So there you have it. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather as I lead you down to the path of weatherness. Don't know whether you got it.
Thank you. I like that. Thank you, Michael. I'm on the path. All right, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door and call them. Call them, 678-6945. Bringing you Michael Rogers weather. The guys over at the Fish and Game are going to be having a big breakfast on Friday morning at the 6th Annual Magic Valley Sportsman's Breakfast at the regional office over there on Highway 93. And they're going to be cooking up pancakes and eggs, and it starts at 6:30 in the morning. Even Kelton Hatch. Now, I don't know if that's a detriment or a positive, but he's going to have an apron on cooking over there. Chef Boyardee. Chef Boyard Hopeless, probably. Anyway, that's Friday morning at the Fish and Game office. Don't you forget it. Also, I want to remind everybody about my friends at Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Scott Gano and his crew, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Now, you notice the last couple of days, been a little bit cooler, and it's going to continue on a downside. We're going to naturally have some warm weather, maybe getting up in the 70s, but you know, the trend is going to be for cooler. So, if you've got a sprinkler system, call them, get on the list to blow out your sprinklers before they freeze and really cause some damage. And if you need your trees properly pruned, they can do it. Give them a call, 438-2485. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, and Paul serving you. We've got a lot of things to talk about today, and we got some great guests on the program, too, including former CIA operative Brian Fairchild coming up at 10:06 this morning. By the way, too, I want to remind you that Ramsey Heating and Electric absolutely saluting farmers in the area with hats off to farmers, and they know you're in a big hurry. They know that you can't be standing around waiting, and so just call ahead. They'll have your order waiting on the counter, whether it's for fuses or cord ends, rubber cord, whatever you need, at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Number to call, write this down, 678-0459. 678-0459 at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Why? I'm just going to throw this out to you. Why? Ask the question, why did our government and the CDC, Center for Disease Control, allow, and that's the only word I could come up with right now this morning, allow for the Ebola virus to be brought here to the United States? Now, I know that there are some that are going to say, how dare you, you're minimizing and devaluing human life by saying, well, they shouldn't have been brought here for treatment. Wait a minute. No, I'm using common sense, I think. But by bringing patients here to this country, we are running a hazard, a risk, a danger of having it spread to our country through possibly terrorism, through possibly a gross mistake or negligence. And I don't think right now in this day and age we can afford any other mistakes. Another person is here now in a Dallas hospital being treated for the Ebola virus that came in from Liberia in Dallas, Texas, and the CDC and the head physician and surgeon, etc., says they're on top of it. They're on top of it. It's a very scary situation right now. Now, as far as I know, from the research that I did and the people I talked to earlier this morning, the Ebola virus, unless it develops another mutant strain, now keep this in mind, unless it develops another strain, is not an airborne virus yet, and so far is transmitted by bodily fluids only. Okay, that's currently. But my goodness, we have seen mutant strains of any virus take off and flourish. And I'm very worried about what's going to happen with the Ebola virus, deadly, being brought here from Africa, and now it's here in the United States. Your thoughts, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, I want to remind you about Valleywide Home and Ranch. Have you got a pellet stove? I love my pellet stove. Well, it's time to stock up on pellets for the pellet stove, and you can buy 1 bag or a ton or 2 ton, how many ever you feel like unloading at home. Valleywide is the place to go. And they got all your feed for your animals, too, whether you got cows, horses, pigs, chickens, dogs, kitty cats, or birds. Birds? Yep, Deanne's got a whole bunch of birds. And you'll find all the feed right there at Valleywide Home and Ranch. You better believe it, along with the warm winter gloves, too. Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Stop in and see these good folks today, Mandy and everybody else at Valleywide Home and Ranch. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you on this subject. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, I also want to remind you, this Saturday there is going to be, I guess the best way to describe it is a ripping good, absolutely fantastic community sale put on by Rogge Auction, and it's going to be Saturday at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds starting at 11 o'clock. And Cade and the crew, Ron, everybody, they're going to be there. Boy, they can auction, I'll tell you what. And they had a great sale in the spring. And they're going to have another one now coming up this weekend with vehicles and household goods, guns, some farm equipment, and they're going to take consignments right up through Friday evening the 3rd up until the evening. So, man, get consigned with anything you need to sell, and call Kate at 431-0074 or Ron at 316-0318. And this is also on the website, RoggeAuctions.com. Big sale this Saturday, Minidoka County Fairgrounds. All right, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I cannot believe that the richest, strongest, supposedly most secured country in the world, the United States of America, and the protecting of our president, supposedly, and the first family, is absolutely a joke. Secret Service and Mrs. Julia Pearson really getting grilled yesterday by both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and the Republicans. How could the Secret Service be so lax? Did you hear there is more coming out about this guy that jumped the fence, ran to the White House, and went inside? And took his own personal tour running all over. And the guy had a knife in his pocket and everything else. My goodness, if he'd had a bomb or a gun or something like that. Oh, my heavens. Well, anyway, at first we were told, we, the American public, the taxpayers that fund this joke, we were told that, well, yeah, the Secret Service caught him right away. All the doors were locked. He didn't get in. Well, that was a lie. That was blatantly a lie. This guy got in and took his own, like I said, personal tour. He went to the green room. He went to the red room. He went down all the hallways. He went everywhere. And finally was taken down. And one of the things that came out yesterday in this testimony, it's just so idiotic. The ushers and some of the White House staff didn't like the sound of the buzzers that turned on when somebody opened a door, like zzz. They didn't like that. So they had some of the staff, janitors or whomever, turn them off. Oh, that's great security. Yeah. And they complained about the entry buzzers. It annoyed them. So they had them turned off. You know, folks, think about this administration. Think about all the errors of their ways. Think about everything they've done that's almost a complete clown looking for a circus. And not only on a foreign level with the national or the lack of national respect and security, but right here at this in our country, this administration is just absolutely pathetic. That's a good word to describe it. Pathetic. And to think that we've got to discuss the safety for the President of the United States and how everything should be on a 1 to 10 scale. It should be a 1. There should be checklists. There should be daily review of what's going on or what isn't going on. Ay, ay, ay. Your thoughts, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my. Denny's Restaurant. What can we say? The food is delicious. That's what you're going for. You're going for great food. The menu is fantastic. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The service is absolutely the best. Nice, friendly, smiling people. And, of course, they've got, for senior citizens, special menu and AARP discounts. And, my goodness sakes, they've got gift cards you can give to somebody else so they can go over and share the love with great eating at Denny's. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and our next lunch bunch will be a Halloween party on October 30th. Write that down. Denny's Restaurant in Burley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
On Fox News this morning, just moments ago, they were talking about the president being in an elevator.
Yep.
He didn't say where, but I think it's the White House.
No, it was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, anyway, here stands a guy right next to him who has a criminal record.
Yep.
And has a firearm.
Yep.
And he's standing right next to the president.
I heard that.
She's got to go.
I heard this story, and the guy was a 3-time loser. He was taking pictures incessantly in the elevator of the president and some of the staff members and the Secret Service, and they asked him to cut out on the pictures, knock it off, and then they found out later the guy had a gun. He's getting fired from the business he is working for, and he says, I better turn in my weapon at this time. He was on the elevator with a loaded gun standing right behind President Obama, and nobody checked this dude out.
Yeah, it's phenomenal that this service, maybe they need to change the name of it from secret to public service agents.
You know, Keith, we can make fun of this and we can joke about this, but whether or not you like and or adhere to any of his ideology, Barack Obama's ideology, he is still the president of the United States and deserves the best of protection. And that's not what's happening. This whole mess shows that there are some very inept people running the show.
Well, and I hope somebody does not shoot him for the fact that Joe Biden is just waiting for his opportunity.
Oh, please don't go there.
That is really, really scary.
I agree. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that story up about the elevator. I was going to get to it later, but I might have forgotten. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Keith. God bless. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Call, I'll be with you in just a minute. I promise. Don't go away. Don't forget Snyder's Surplus. It's not just Army and hunting supplies. No, they've got a brand new whole bunch of merchandise. And they've got a brand new store. They had a devastating fire, and man, these people would not be knocked down. No, sir. They came back strong, and they've got brand new merchandise. They got a brand new store. They've got the same great friendly service to you. They're located at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert, and they've got all the Halloween decorations and costumes. They got new furniture coming in every day. They've got combat boots. I'm telling you what, in all sizes, and they're ready to serve you. Memory foam mattresses. They've got it all over there. It's Snyder Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Sir.
I've been watching this fiasco, and they had Dan Bongano, Life Inside the Bubble.
Yeah.
He was on last night, and he flat told the person, he said, that woman is not qualified to hold that position. She should be fired and let go right now, and a complete investigation of the whole security system for the United States. Period.
I'm going to say this, and I know I'm probably going to be in trouble for this, But I want you to give me your opinion. This Don Bongiorno that you were talking about is a man that has served our country and served it well and has been with the Secret Service and understands the ins and outs. Why do they overlook appointing someone like him to put a woman in there? And I'm not trying to be sexist, but she does not have the experience. She does not have the wherewithal anywhere close to somebody like him.
I don't know. It's just, why did they put Janet Napolitano in charge of the Border Patrol? That was the biggest fiasco I've seen in a long time.
You know, there are some excellent women for any and all jobs, and I am not going to be accused of being sexist because that's not the way it is. But in this particular case with this woman, Julia Pearson, and the fiasco that this has caused, when we have had many, many people step up to the plate and look like they've got higher qualifications and credentials, somebody's got to explain why.
I know it. I mean, I wish I'd go back and find somebody. I mean, sure, he wore dresses according to what some people said, but J. Edgar Hoover is one of the honoriest FBI men we ever had, but at least he was a lot safer. I
can't argue with that point about being safer. I just absolutely, I cringe every day. Tell me, Al, you are a news junkie, and that's said out of respect. But you know every single day you've got to get up in the morning and just shake your head as to the lunacy that's going on back there.
I know it. It's getting ridiculous. And I mean, when the hell are people going to wake up to the fact that we're not being protected by our so-called president, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, or nobody else? We're out there on a limb by ourselves, and somebody's going to chop it off.
I agree. I totally agree. Thank you, Al. God bless you. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
And calls are welcome, 43622. It really, the whole situation back in Washington, D.C., it just seems like they're completely out of touch with reality. They're completely out of touch with the basics of, we are public servants. What a novel idea. Gee, I wish somebody'd read the handbook. Don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, they got those big lifts to get you way up in the air. Up in the air, Junior Birdman. Yes, sirree, they can get you way up there with the nifty lifts. And they got all the Coyote tractors. And, oh my goodness, year-end prices. Great selection of everything. The Doosan loaders, all with great financing. Great people to work with. They got super mechanics and a wonderful shop at the Burley location, 159 West Highway 30. And they've got two other locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls and South Lincoln and Jerome. When you're looking to buy and or rent the equipment you need, it's Berry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. All right, it's time for the Capital Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. USDA's investigation into an unauthorized biotech wheat release in Oregon last year found a Washington farmer who encountered wheat impervious to glyphosate herbicides in 2007. While searching for the possible source of biotech wheat volunteers discovered by an Oregon grower last year, federal investigators interviewed more than 200 wheat farmers. An unidentified grower in Washington told investigators that in the spring of 2007, he sprayed a patch of wheat volunteers with glyphosate 3 times, but it remained unaffected by the herbicide. According to the investigation summary, the farmer ended up hand-pulling the 50 wheat plants and burned the material without sending it for genetic testing. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
You know, this next little story is, it's not ridiculous anymore. It's not going to go away anytime soon because of completely incompetent boobs that are out here in the hinterland. And now one man wants and is pushing for the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, to ban the word Redskins on the radio and television, and any commentator that uses that word, the team logo moniker for the Washington Redskins, will be thrown off the air and the station will get a fine or possibly lose its license. One guy is trying this ploy. Now, folks, I don't know what you think about the term Redskins. I will tell you my stand on it again. Number one, this has been a very prominent, very well-respected franchise in the National Football League for almost 80 years. It has never been a derogatory source of advertising or anything else against the American Indian. Ever. It's been a plus. 80% of the American public absolutely wants the name to stay the same. Washington Redskins. And along with that 80% are most all of the North American Indian tribes. But there is a handful of those that see at the end of the tunnel the word money. And they're going after this, and they're going to do all they can to cause disruption. Now, I will continue to say Washington Redskins when I give kind of a summation as to what happened on weekends or the Monday after weekends when the National Football League plays. I am not going to change. I am not going to alter my remarks. And this is kind of a vendetta for me. Because I don't like when I find that people are trying to change things to always be politically correct. Where do they draw the line? Where do they stop? They won't. They will keep coming after every situation until you have a vanilla world, a vanilla lifestyle, and vanilla verbiage that they say will not offend someone. Anybody and everybody can be offended by anything at any time. And if you start letting these kooks and crackpots come in and dictate, well, that's offensive, you got to stop that. Oh, they're going to throw a lawsuit. We got to stop and draw a line in the sand. There has never been anything derogatory at all. As a matter of fact, if anything, the Washington Redskins have always portrayed the American Indian as a very proud heritage to our history here in the United States, as do the Atlanta Braves, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Indians, and the Florida Seminoles, Florida State Seminoles. And I am sick and tired of being backed into a corner. And I, for one, will not adhere to their political correctness. We will continue to call that team the Washington Redskins. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, there's a brand new sponsor on our program this morning, and I want to talk about them because I know their business. I'm a part of their business by being a patient there, and I believe in their business, and I believe in their people. And that's Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite number 2. And these are the nicest people that are taking doctor referrals to help make you feel and act better. A very friendly staff. Comprehensive services for you, whether you're 6 months or 96 years of age. They want to help you. They want to help you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy, and they have a pool for the hydrotherapy. Oh, my goodness, that's helped me a lot. And excellent to work with for the various insurance coverages. They want to help you feel better. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Stop in or give them a call today. Really nice people. 678-1191. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi there.
I want to add a little bit of my opinion to your diatribe about the Native Americans and the different Indian tribes. Why don't we lift their self-pride and help them get out of some of the doldrums they're in by letting them be proud of who they are and what they can do? Get them off of the reservation. Give them a life.
Let me ask you something, Chris. If the Indian tribes were to form a football team, what do you think they might call that team? Have you ever thought about that? If the Indian tribes were to have the money to start a team in the NFL, what would they say? What would they call that team? I would bet that there would be something of a connotation that would refer back to their heritage and their ancestry of being proud American Indians.
Uh-huh. And those of us who do know something about our history, there have been proud tribes. And I would think every American Indian would be happy to have their tribe's name Apaches or some of these other names. Why are we keeping them on the reservation? If anybody has ever been across a reservation, and you can't go to Idaho Falls without going across one, it is the worst thing we've ever done for them.
What we tried to do with treaties and historical facts of the past, that both sides were treated unfairly, and primarily we have disavowed the treaties, we've tried to change them, etc. There's been a lot of negativity on both sides. But we have created I think you will agree with me, a welfare source that right now should be standing on its own and not be a sovereign country or a sovereign community within a sovereign country.
Yeah. Well, and one of the very best things that we could do for the Native Americans is give them back their pride and let them do what they do best so that they can become self-sufficient.
Absolutely.
And I think if they could form a football team and name it after some of their pride and joy, we ought to more power to them.
You know, and the thing is, there is nothing that is being done. Nothing. And I grew up less than 35 miles away from Milwaukee County Stadium in southern Wisconsin. And that was the home at that time of the Milwaukee Braves before they moved to Atlanta. And there was never, ever anything that was derogatory. There was never, ever anything that was done to diminish the pride and the heritage of the American Indian, especially with all the tribes of different Indians in Wisconsin. They all relished the fact that they were called the Braves. And this is complete idiocy and nothing more than political correctness by a small group of people that are trying to make money off this situation.
Well, and the small group of people have probably never even had their foot on a Indian reservation. And if they would, maybe they'd come out of their craziness and try to make a difference, not keep them on the plantation.
Yeah. The other night on Monday Night Football, Chris, I was watching the Kansas City Chiefs play the Boston Patriots, or the New England Patriots. I keep calling them Boston. But anyhow, up in the stands, when they did the panorama shot of the various people, there were many, many people wearing, of course, all the Kansas City Chief uniforms. It was a sea of red, many of which had, the tomahawks, many of which had headdresses on, etc. But it wasn't for anything derogatory to the American Indian. They were supporting the team, the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you go back into that area, you're talking about a large quantity of American Indians representing various tribes, and those folks are not at all against the name.
No, it's just another one of the political correct trying to put their boot on our neck and turn us into people like them. I
agree. Chris, it's always good to hear from you. Thank you. All right, bye-bye. Take care. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It was just a couple of weeks ago that we were talking about this same subject. I think Gina and I were talking about it, and I said that Native Americans, I don't like that name. I don't like that moniker, if you will, for the American Indian. And the state of Oklahoma has put it on their license plates. But it's basically offensive to me. And basically it should be offensive to you if you were born here in this country. Because quite frankly, they are no more native than I am. And if that offends somebody, it's the truth. We're Native Americans. We were born here. We're Native Americans. And I'm not going to specialize or emphasize a certain segment of our population to get certain terminologies. I don't believe in it. I certainly don't believe in hyphenated names like Mexican American or Islamic Americans or black Americans termed African Americans. I don't believe in that. We're Americans. You want to live here? Pay your taxes here? Salute the flag here? We're all Americans. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the square over in Rupert. Oh, my. Good eating. Breakfast, lunch, or supper, Monday through Friday, 6 to 6, Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 2. And they've got a bakery over there at Sophie's. Oh, my goodness. You talk about baking up some good stuff. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls. Oh, they're good. They're good. Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Call them, 436-0354. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Deb, I hope this isn't interrupting anything you were saying, but we had a little dog that showed up on our porch when it was stormy, and I know it must belong to somebody. I was just wondering if you could maybe put a number out or something that somebody could try to find him here.
All right, what kind of dog is it?
It's a Yorkie. It looks like a Yorkie poo that we looked up on the computer, but it looks like it's been groomed, and I think it might belong to somebody. I hope somebody just didn't drop him off.
All right, now what location are you at? What's street location?
36 South and 200 West of Burley.
Okay. And it's a little, what'd you say, a Yorkie poo?
Yorkie.
Okay, all right.
It's white, and it's got brown streaks in it.
All right.
We just can't keep him because we travel a lot, but
yeah.
The poor thing, I don't want to take him to the pound.
Oh, no, I understand. Believe me, and I'm glad you called. So it's it's at 36 South, 200 West of Burley.
Right, and if you want a phone number, I'll be glad to give it to you.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
It's 678-0035.
All right, now, if that dog is not picked up or anybody doesn't call us back, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. A little Yorkie has been found at 36 South, 200 West of Burley, and it's white with kind of brown streaks. Very well-groomed dog, the lady said. And the number to call to check on it, if it's your dog, your Yorkie has left the scene, call 678-0035. Okay? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. You know, the part of this thing that really bothers me is Federal Communications Commission are going to try to mandate that you can't say that, and they don't have that authority.
Yep, I agree.
For anywhere I've ever read in the rules, that's not part of what they're there for. It's just not right for the government to say you can't say Redskins. You can still say Washington, which is a way worse name.
You said that one other time, Jerry, and I agree with you. But, you know, pick a word. Pick any word you want. Pick any name you want. And create an aura of, oh, that offends you, and you can get almost anything changed by yelping and screaming and complaining like some of these people.
You better watch out. They might change your name.
I know it. Hey, thank you, my friend.
Scary because it's ridiculous.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Like the Redskins. There's nothing wrong with Redskins. You've got Redskin potatoes, and they're the best potato there is next to a russet.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that have Redskin, and it's stupid that some government agency is going to try and control it.
I agree.
People in this country ought to be raising heck about the fact that they're trying to take control of everything.
I agree.
And, you know, something small as a name like that, and there's nothing wrong with Redskin, nothing.
But we're wasting
it's a wonderful name.
We're wasting all this political time and effort, even going to Harry Reid, and this is absolutely asinine. By the way, Jerry, I got to do the weather, but I want to say thank you to you and your wife for the card. God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
You have a wonderful day, and maybe tomorrow you have an extra wonderful day, And don't eat too many cakes and too much ice cream.
All right, Jerry. Thank you. God bless you, my dear friend. Take care.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hey, it's time for the weather. The weather is brought to you this hour by Nicole and the crew at Mad River Laser. Now, I was over there yesterday. Deanna and I stopped into their brand new location at 502 East Street in Rupert. All I can say is, wow. Wow. You walk in the store and the talent and the artistry and everything shows right there at Mad River Laser. And I'm going to have some more sweatshirts and t-shirts and caps and stuff made up for me and my business. Wow. I mean, whatever promotional items you need, they can do it, and what a job they do. Stop in, please, and visit with them. Nicole and everybody at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Nice day all the way through the weekend. Now, your temperatures are still going to be on the cool side. 61 today, 67 tomorrow. By the time you get to the weekend, you should be seeing some daytime highs in the middle 70s. Other than that, enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, feel the weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. They've moved to this new location, and it's absolutely right there on the square, and it is first class. Whatever you need, from buck knives to tote bags, sweatshirts, t-shirts, caps, all there at Mad River Laser. Stop in and see them today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436. Good buddy Jeff. What did Jeff say? Jeff Poole, Deanne? He said there is snow on top of Mount Harrison. Oh, whoa. Too early, I think, isn't it? Snow is coming. I could not believe this morning when I heard this. Goddard College. I believe it is in upstate New York. I believe. It's either Pennsylvania or New York. I'm not going to tie myself in on this one. Goddard College, guess what? The student body has selected a convicted cop killer to give the commencement speech. What? Yes, it's true. This convicted, heinous killer stood over a policeman and shot and killed him, sent to prison. And while in prison, he graduated by taking a mailing-in course from Goddard College. And the students thought, hey, man, this is great. He overcame all this adversity, and we're going to pick him as a commencement speaker. What in the world? A convicted murderer of a policeman? And the family of this policeman, you can imagine, they are absolutely and understandably outraged. You know, I got to thinking about this after the story was on television this morning, early. But to show how stupid and how absolutely unjust this kind of a selection is, to pick a policeman killer. This man stood over a policeman and shot him to death. And he's going to be a commencement speaker at a college, an institution of higher learning. And yet at the same time, we have imbeciles at Rutgers University that wouldn't let Condoleezza Rice speak in front of their class because they said she was too conservative. Go figure. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call on the old landline, if you would, please. Here's something else that I want to tell you about this morning. Oh, by the way, this is really important, too. They took a new poll, and the poll said, after they were done taking the poll, that 48% of Americans favor Republicans handling a crisis situation, whether it's terrorism or whatever, over Democrats. 48-31. And the poll said that basically people said the Democrats are too soft and they don't know what they're doing. Well, for heaven's sakes, it took them long enough. 48-31 favor Republicans handling really dicey situations that regard our security, etc., over the Democrats with only 31. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. People say, are you picking on the Democrats? Yep. Anyhow, don't forget a great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh my, all the different tread designs, all the different tires for your style of driving, whether it's for your car, your SUV, your pick-em-up truck, horse trailer, whatever, they've got your tires, like the TerraMax HT, the Wildcat AT2, the Ultra Z900. Wow. I mean, you go on in there and they'll help you find just the tires that you need for your type of driving. And they've got a lot of the custom wheels on sale and absolutely the best in brake service. And I can attest to that. They know brakes at all 7 locations. You stop in and they'll show you. I mean, when you say, whoa, you're going to stop. And the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, it's all there. All 7 locations with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Did you hear about that high school down in Madison County, Georgia? Was that the cow that went off, Gina? I couldn't hear.
No.
No cow?
No cow.
You mean I didn't hear...
You're hearing things.
Well, no, wait a minute. It sounded just like this.
That's a sick cow.
Boy, I tell you what, I've got to give that some medicine. I don't know if it needs to be wormed or what, but it didn't sound real good.
No, it sounds like it has a little bit of a cold, maybe the stomach flu.
A little bit of nasal congestion on my cow over here.
Yes.
Hey, I'll tell you this story. Did you hear that at Madison County, Georgia, the high school football team, they always run out of the locker room, Gina? And when you were in school, did you have like a rock or something that the players would touch when they ran out on the field or onto the court?
No, we didn't.
But, Notre Dame has a sign that they'll reach up, and they'll hit, and this kind of thing. And various high schools and college, we had a rock at our school that we'd run out of the locker room and hit that rock. And on this rock at Madison County, they run by, and it's got a sword stuck in the rock. And they call themselves the Red Raiders. Anyway, and at the bottom of this rock, some Bible verses like Philippians 4:6, where you can be anything you want to be with God's help and that type of thing, are at the bottom of this rock. Well, the atheists heard about this, and they climbed all over the Madison County School Board and told them that they had to get rid of the rock. Now, here's the rub. A gentleman that gave literally millions of dollars to this high school to rebuild the gymnasium, rebuild the athletic field and everything. That is what he had asked for as far as a thank you, is just put this rock out there as a tribute to the Red Raiders and also to his belief and their belief. They all believe that God is God and Jesus is their Savior. Well, they run out and they hit that rock. Well, the atheists got all bent out of shape and they said, you got to get rid of the rock. And they're going after him. But the kids said, and the families have said, the rock stays.
Good.
You want to go ahead and sue us? You want to go ahead and have legal litigation? You go right ahead. There was a young man, a 17-year-old running back from the high school on TV this morning, very polite young man. And he looked at the camera and he basically said, the rock stays.
Good.
I love it. You got to spit in their eye, Gina. You got to spit in their eye.
Yes, you do sometimes, because, you can't always let the atheists push and bully and get their way. We've got to stand up, and say, what, we have rights too, and if you don't like it, don't look.
Gina, you just said it right there. It's time that people stand up. And, why do we have to cater, bend, and be manipulated to always accept their secular principles?
Political correctness.
There you go. I'm not going to do it.
I'm not either.
No, I know you're not. And I respect you for it, because we're going to stick our chins out and we're going to say, throw your best punch, but be ready for one in return.
Exactly.
There you go. Coming up next hour, we've got my dear friend Doug Johnson of Colorado, and they've got a little snow back there, too, in the high country. And then at 9:30, we're going to have Kyle Olson from eagnews.org talking about many schools all across the United States are saying no to Mama Obama and the nutrition programs that she's trying to push onto these schools. Kids are hungry. Kids are not getting enough to eat. Kids that are athletes are running downtown before practice or whatever and getting food. They're starving to death, and Kyle's going to talk about that. And then at 10:06, oh my, Brian Fairchild. He's been on Glenn Beck, and he's been with Neil Cavuto recently, and this man has written many blogs about his tour of duty, if you will, with the CIA over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he's going to be on at 10:06. And then at 10:30 this morning, I'm really looking forward to a dear friend returning to the airwaves, and that's Representative Bert Stevenson, one of my favorite people. And he's on the Idaho Water Board, appointed by the governor, and we're going to be talking about water. We're going to be talking about farming. We're going to be talking about politics. Going to be interesting. So all of this and much more coming up for the remainder of this morning. I think that's going to do it for this hour. We're going to send it back over to Gina, and we're going to have ABC News, and we will be back in about 6 minutes with more Zeb at the Ranch. Don't you go away. I got to ask her, are you having fun over there?
No, I'm not. I'm having computer issues, and I'm about ready to throw the dang thing out the window.
I, of course, like to listen closely and monitor situations, and I detected a little tension coming through your microphone with words that are not to be repeated over the airwaves.
Exactly, and that's exactly what's going on. I'm like, what are you doing?
You got to know Gina to appreciate her, and when I could see where that thing was revolving, and I was hearing the same thing at the wrong time, but it was kept coming back, and I thought to myself, this girl is not going to be a happy camper.
No, I'm looking at the computer. I'm like, computer, what are you doing? What are you doing? Knock it off, computer. What are you doing?
Now, that's not exactly what you said.
No, but that's what everybody else is going to see.
There we go. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome back to hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, I'll tell you what, they really are always at your disposal. Get on the route service like we are. We've been on that route service for years. And every Thursday afternoon, I mean, just like clockwork, there they are with that big truck. Vroom, pick up our garbage container. Vroom, and they dump it. Vroom, they're gone. Absolutely the best in service. And they also got the dumpsters, too, that you can fill up if you're cleaning out your basement, your garage, or whatever. Just really handy service. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Okay, give them a call. I want to also remind you, too, that on this program we are very blessed with the best in people, and that means also our friends over at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. They are a family. They are there when you need them with very flexible hours to serve you, and they can travel to rural towns and churches to be there and provide all the information that you and your family need. Please give them a call. When there's the loss of a loved one, please call Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636, and they're always working and serving your family with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Joel Heward and the staff at Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. It is time to go to the phone lines. It is time to talk to a very dear friend of mine back in Colorado. Good morning, Doug Johnson. How are you?
I'm good, Zeb. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm going to kind of shotgun things like we did last week. We had some fun with that, and I'd like to do it again, but I'm going to start off on a very, very serious subject. I made the comment last hour, and I never hedge on what I say. I stand behind it, that I think it was a huge mistake to bring patients back from Africa that were suffering with the Ebola virus. I think it has been a huge mistake for this country not to be more cautious and much more leery of the Ebola virus at our incoming airports. And now we have a patient in Dallas, Texas with the Ebola virus that has been in contact with many, many people. This is not something to mess around with, my friend. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're right, and I think it's very serious. They announced this morning that Fort Carson, which is an Army base in Colorado Springs, which the base is about 30 miles from me, they're sending troops over to work in Africa, and that raises a concern. Will they possibly bring something back? But the issue in Dallas, I think, is a huge issue, partly because he's not the first patient. Obviously, we brought some doctors back, and I think there are people carrying it in America that we don't know yet. And what they are not saying, they are not telling the whole truth. They're saying it's not an airborne risk, yet the doctors who caught it in Africa and were brought back here had no physical contact. They were fully protected.
That's right.
And in 2012, Canada, the government of Canada did a study of this, and they found that Ebola, they put pigs in cages in the same room but separated physically from them. They put monkeys, and the pigs were infected with Ebola. Within 8 days, 2 of the 4 monkeys were infected with Ebola, and within 4 more days, the other 2 were infected. So there is concern that it really might be airborne, and we're not aware of it. And so I think our risk is huge.
Doug, not only that, but in this day and age, and I'm not hesitant at all in laying out all the cards face up on the table, in this day and age of all the terrorist activities and everything, why would one want to have and or house any of the medications, any of the bacteria, anything that possibly could be shifted from one source to another, go to one site to another? Somebody could steal this, somebody could take it out of the hospital. We are running a risk that absolutely could be a threat to the entirety of mankind.
Well, excuse me, I think you're right, and I think it goes even bigger because it's just a matter of time before ISIS or one of these terrorist groups gets somebody, sends them into West Africa, gets them infected, then sends them in over our open borders to start to infect our population. And this will be devastating to America when this happens. And I think it's a matter of when, not if, at this point. And so we face a terrible thing. The first thing that should have been done when this whole thing was becoming so out of control in Africa is we should have shut down all travel from that part of the world to this part of the world, but Obama wouldn't do it. And we have to remember, Obama doesn't do these things because he's not really interested in the welfare of America. He's interested in more power for himself and the progressive movement, and he's also interested in political correctness. And political correctness, he would never stop those people from coming here, so he leaves the gate open, and unfortunately, we're in real trouble now.
I couldn't agree more. All right, Doug. You know, this is a funny story, but it's not funny. It's extremely serious. I mean, my goodness sakes, when you talk about the security of the White House, the safety and security of the President and his family of the United States of America, one always thinks of the Secret Service always in high regard to where they would throw their bodies in front of the President to protect him at a moment's notice. And we just recently had some yo-yo jump over the fence, kind of saunter across the White House lawn. We were lied to by this administration. They said, well, the doors were locked. He didn't get in. Yes, he did. He took his own grand tour of the place and could have done and wreaked havoc on the president and his family. And the Secret Service was absolutely jolted because they didn't know they were so lax. What do you think about this?
I'm not really surprised. Every appointment Obama has done has been for political correctness. When they came into power,
They moved the Secret Service from being under the Treasury to being under the Department of Homeland Security, which is a big mistake. And, of course, they put Janet Napolitano in charge of that, which is another mistake. But what's scary, let me just sidelight just for a moment, and I'll come back on track here, Zeb. People need to understand she may very well be our next Attorney General because she was the other choice that he had it down to Holder and Napolitano when he put Holder in as Attorney General. So there's a good chance they may try to get her to replace Holder. But going back to your question, I think security at the White House, what bothers me is they talk about trying to have restraint. They don't want to just, go crazy on these things. I think, and I don't care who the president is, I think that building and the president need to be secure at all times. And if somebody comes over that fence and the dogs or the Secret Service can't get them, they must use lethal force and stop them from wherever they can as fast as they can. We cannot allow something like this to happen. We do not need that kind of tragedy in our country.
But, Doug, you kind of summed it up a few moments ago. I mean, we are becoming, and I don't want to have this happen to this great country, but with Obama's attitude towards the world and towards national security and towards minimizing the value of America, we've become a laughing stock. And don't think for a minute that other countries and other leaders and even the late-night talk show hosts and the comedians, they're having a field day with how poor and how juvenile we're acting.
Well, yeah, we've been the laughing stock of the world for 6 years now. The late-night comedians are starting to address it a little bit. They're still careful what they'll say because they don't want to be too hard on the nation's first black president. And since they're all leftists, they want to support him to some degree. But it's gotten to a point now where they really can't resist. So you do see some humor put out there on the issue. But, yeah, we are a laughing stock because, and let me say, people say we're a laughing stock because of our leadership. Zeb, I disagree. They laugh at our leadership, but we're a laughing stock because of our citizens, because we were stupid enough to elect them not just once, but twice.
I agree. I totally agree with that statement. And yet, when you say that, looming on the horizon, we have Hillary Clinton. And I heard a program yesterday. I got home, I turned on the news, I was channel surfing to pick up all the different stories and compare how it was on one station or one network with another. And I was listening to these two commentators that had about as much bright light as a burned out light bulb as far as their intelligence, and they were already hailing Hillary Clinton as the next president and how she would handle certain situations and everything. This is not a gimme. At least I hope it isn't, Doug.
I don't think it is, because they said they were that way about her in 2007 until all of a sudden they all switched gears and shifted over to Barack Obama. So it's not a done deal for Hillary. There is a definite movement in the Democrat Party and the progressive movement to push her out of the way and put Elizabeth Warren or somebody else, but probably Elizabeth Warren, in as a candidate. And there's a very serious movement going on to do that that's challenging Hillary very hard. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But, the bottom line is this, and Americans need to understand, any Democrat that would be elected would be would make the nightmare we have now even worse. There is no such thing as a good Democrat. I defy anybody who says there is to debate me, because the fact is you cannot stand for the platform that Democrats represent and be a good person, period. The worst Republican is better than any Democrat. It's that simple.
Now, in accordance with what you just said, I don't know if you're aware of this poll or not. Again, I had it in the first hour. There is a new poll out that shows that people, the American public, favor Republicans in time of crisis and national security. 48% in favor of Republicans handling the crisis to just 31% of the Democrats. That goes right along with what you're saying.
Well, it does, and that has been true for decades. It's always been true that when the nation's in crisis, people lean to the Republicans because they know the Republicans will stand for national security. They will know that the Republicans stand to protect the nation. When it's the economy, they go to the Democrats because they get freebies. But when they get scared, they go to the Republicans. And I hate to say it, but ISIS, the Ebola threat, these kind of things may actually be the saving grace for the Republicans in the midterms here in a few weeks, because they're about to lose badly in the midterms, worse than they think. You have the Karl Roves of the party, who are saying, well, it's going to be a sweep. But the fact is, it's very questionable at this point. And so really the threats we face, as bad as they are, could play well in the elections for us.
Absolutely. Doug, there's another subject that I wanted to talk about this morning, and I know from comments that you've made in the past, you're not really a big sports fan, but this supersedes just sports. It has to do with political correctness, and it has to do with the telling us what we can say and we can't say. As you probably are aware, the Washington Redskins football team has been under fire by a very small number of people that have gone to great lengths to try to get and force Daniel Snyder to change the name of that football team. And now, one man this morning is appealing through a lawsuit, etc., to the FCC to have the name Redskins banned on radio and television. And possibly, if any commentator says the word Redskin on a television or radio show, that station could lose its license. I stand up here before you and everybody this morning, as I said in the first hour, I will continue to say Washington Redskin. I say it out of respect. I will not be following a politically correct verbiage set to by any group or individual, and I want to know your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to preface my response by saying something. When you brought up sports in the past, you've started the same way. Saying that I'm not much of a sports fan, and the fact is I'm not anymore, but I want to say I used to be. I don't watch professional sports anymore because I'm disgusted by what it's become, the narcissism, the lack of, frankly, the lack of morality on the part of the players. They don't see themselves as role models anymore. I grew up doing security for the Minnesota Vikings and the Minnesota Twins when Fran Tarkington was the quarterback and the Vikings were in their heyday, and I got to be around these people, and they were gentlemen, and they understood that they had to be role models. So that's why I stand where I do. But I do think the issue you raise is an important one, not because we should really care what a team is called, but because we should care that a team has the right to call themselves whatever they want. And what we're saying to the Redskins is, you don't have First Amendment rights as an organization to name your team what you want. This is ridiculous political correctness. It's run amok, and my suspicion is before this is over, they will be forced to change the name. The government is determined to get them to change their name, and I suspect that's what's going to happen before it's over, and I think it's wrong.
A couple of things I'd like to say, and we're good enough friends that I think you'll allow me to somewhat disagree with what you said a few moments ago. Yes, there are some blatant atrocities in professional athletics that have broken the law. They have just basically denigrated themselves. They've denigrated their team. They've denigrated their community. I agree with you. But, on the other hand, we can't lump all athletes together and say all. We still have many, many athletes that are involved in a lot of great community charity work. We have a lot of athletes that are out there living a great life with their family. I'll throw some names at you, like Tim Tebow comes to mind, an athlete that I absolutely respected for his view on Christianity. And there are many more involved in community service work. So I can't lump everybody together. It's unfortunate, but the squeaky, dirty wheel is the one that gets the grease. On the other side of that coin, I am highly offended that we have political correctness telling you, Doug Johnson, and me, Zeb Bell, if you say a certain word, we will destroy your career, we will destroy you, and take that station's license away for saying something that for over 80 years has been an accepted part of our national heritage. This team has always shown respect for the American Indian.
Well, first, I agree with you about Tim Tebow, and sadly, as probably the best role model we've seen in a long time come down the pike, we see what happens. He's forced out of the game. He's not in the game anymore. He'd love to be, but he can't get in the game. And this is what's happened. We have a league that is, I believe, the ESPN and other, well, let's just say the sportscasters, have become more politically correct and worse than the mainstream media has about politics. They are more concerned about whether or not a gay player is signed to a team than they have about how well somebody plays and does their job on the field. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting that we even have seen things like when somebody scores that, they do anything from, in the case of football, spike a football or dance in an end zone, to just holding their hands up and cheering. I was raised in sports. I was very active in it. I was around professional sports a long time, and the number one thing most people think you're taught back in our generation was good sportsmanship meant being a good loser. But I was taught good sportsmanship, even more importantly, was being a good winner. You don't rub your competitor's nose in your victory. And that's what disgusts me about the league, the NFL, or any pro sports league, is they don't hold their players to the standard. Sadly, you're right. Many good players who live good lives, have good families, that are role models, are taken down because of what the other players who are bad and what the league has allowed to happen. But I think it's become a disgusting thing at this point. And like I said, my wife and I were talking about it last night, and I said I can't turn on a professional game anymore because I'm disgusted by how they behave. And so that's my personal thing. But going back to our topic at hand, I think that the issue of the Washington Redskins, and this is what Americans need to understand, goes so far beyond sports it's ridiculous. This is about freedom. It's that simple. It is about freedom. And if the Republicans want to win, they should run on freedom, because we are losing our freedoms. I wrote about it this week. People think we have to have a dictator before we'll lose our freedoms. They don't realize that the freedoms start to be taken away before the dictator takes over.
Absolutely.
And so we are really, really in danger, and this is a perfect example of what's happening.
I'll tell you one final note. Our football coach in high school, Chuck Thompson, he sat there, and I'll never forget it. He said, when you get into the end zone, act like you've been there before.
Absolutely. When I was in sports in Minnesota growing up, I didn't play football. I was in track and wrestling, and our track team, well, both our teams, we were the number one in the state of Minnesota when I was in high school. And I'll never forget when we hit number one, and we came out of a meet, and we were all excited about it, and our coach got us on the bus to take us back, and he got on, and he was angry, and he shut us all up, and he said, I don't want to ever hear that again. You will respect the other team. You don't rub your victory in their face. You could just as well be them walking away losing. You were fortunate, you won, you worked hard, you earned it, but you show respect and you be a gentleman. And let me say this, I was not a Christian at that time in my life. I was not religious. I was not raised in a religious home. That man happened to be a Christian, and he was one of the major influences in my life that years later caused me to make a decision to become a Christian, because I saw how he lived his life and the morals he upheld. So the impact sports can have on people's lives is tremendous, both on the team and just as a viewer watching it. But unfortunately, I think that they have really hurt themselves publicly. And I think this thing with the Redskins is sad. Americans should rise up and say, we support the Redskins, we're not going to allow this. But I'm sure that won't happen.
You know, Doug, it just went by, zip, and it's gone, our time. I can't believe it. Thank you so much, and hope all is well with you and your lovely wife, and God's blessings to you, and thanks for another great week, another great show. We'll look forward to next Wednesday.
That sounds great, Zeb. I'll look forward to it.
All right, take care, my friend. Horse Sense blog writer and excellent author, Doug Johnson, on our program this morning. Thank you very, very much. Don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Now, we've been telling you that they really are putting out all the new Halloween and even Christmas decorations right there at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Stop in. You'll find what you're looking for. They've got a shipment of repurposed dressers coming in this week, and they're going to be at the craft fair at the Rupert High School this month of October. And don't forget, they're closed on Mondays and Sundays, but the rest of the week they serve you at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, a place where the fun is sold. Let's ride. Let's ride. Get your motor running on the ATVs and get up in the mountains and enjoy all the beautiful fall colors. Oh, my goodness. Yes, get up there and enjoy. And don't forget, too, you heard that report. Jeff Poole called us this morning, and Jeff Poole said there's snow up on the mountain. Well, that means there's going to be a lot of snow machining this year. If you haven't got your brand new snowmobile, check them out at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. And don't forget they've got all the accessories. Don't forget they've got a great service department. Brad and the rest of the folks, absolutely, at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. Good people. We're going to have our dear friend Kyle Olson on the phone in just a moment, but did you hear that? Did you hear that? Well, you didn't? Well, then maybe you'd better get into Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids and have your hearing checked. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, says, hey, if you're having trouble hearing, you'd better give her a call. She might be able to help you and have a hearing test. You better believe it, 312-0957. 312-0957. And don't forget, she's got the hunting plugs for your ears, the shooter plugs, so that you can still hear the animals, but when you shoot, it's not going to blow your eardrums out. Check those out at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, Christine Pickup. Did you hear that? Okay, let's go to the phone lines. And I'm really looking forward to having this man on with us this morning and discussing what's going on with what we can eat and can't eat in our school systems, thanks to Mama Obama. Good morning to EAGnews.org. My friend Kyle Olson. Kyle, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Zeb. Good. How are you?
Well, I get madder and madder and madder when I talk to various parents around the area, and I talk to parents in other states, be it California, be it Utah, Texas, etc. And they're telling me, hey, our kids, they're going to school, and they're taking the tray and they're having it filled with something that they won't eat, they don't like, they're throwing it in the trash, it's a complete waste, it's a crime, and they're not getting enough, and in the afternoon they're feeling tired, and they can't go to football practice, they can't go to volleyball practice, they can't run cross country because they're not getting enough nutrition. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, we are seeing stories like that across the country, where districts, school employees are unhappy with the fact that the regulations that came from Washington, D.C. require them to give kids certain types of foods, certain portion sizes and all of that, and then they watch the kids go to the end of the food line and throw it all away, or throw a lot of it away. And that's, to me, that's really the trouble in all of this, is you've got these one-size-fits-all top-down mandates coming from Washington, D.C., and they expect schools in Idaho and Michigan and around the country to all operate the same way.
Kyle, I've thought a lot about this over the last couple of weeks that you've been on this program talking about this, and I really can't blame Mama Obama. I really can't blame the school boards and school districts. I blame the parents for not being vocal enough, not going to the school and standing in front of the superintendent and or the school board and saying, enough is enough, this is not right, you're actually hurting my child's opportunity to get a good education because they're starving to death and they can't keep their mind on their studies. The parents need to stand up on this.
Right. Yeah, I think there definitely is more that parents can do, and a lot of parents are doing that. And what's interesting is that a lot of schools are seeing a decline in participation in the school lunch program, and so what that means is that more parents are just packing a home packed lunch, which I think is a good thing. And but you're right, there is more that local schools and parents could be doing to voice their concerns and basically show the federal government that parents and local communities know best.
Kyle, you know more about this than most anybody else I know and have had on this program, but how are they discerning what we can serve the kids or what portions they can serve the kids, the caloric content, the protein content? How are they getting this all discerned?
Well, the federal government is deciding all of that, and so, what's interesting, or what's one of the byproducts of it is that the federal government and Michelle Obama have said we want to have more fresh, produce and more fresh foods and those sorts of things in the meals, But what's happening is because a local school district doesn't know how many calories are in a homemade meal, they're actually going more towards processed meals and in processed foods. And so on that front, it doesn't seem to me like they're actually going to accomplish their mission. But what we're seeing is that because the calorie counts and the fat content and the sugar and the salt and all of that are so small, schools are trying to still provide, things that kids like to eat, like hamburgers and hot dogs and those sorts of things. But in order to comply with the regulations, the portion sizes have to be so small. Just one example we wrote about last week. A school district used to give its kids 6 chicken fingers, and now to be within the guidelines, now they only can give 3 chicken fingers.
Oh, brother.
And so they're cutting portions, which is leading to kids being hungry.
Kyle, when you look at this, and you touched on this about a month ago when I had you on the program, we were talking about the school lunches versus the home packed lunch with mom and her loving hands and putting things in the bag that the kids like and everything. And you said it on that program that little by little, inch by inch, step by step, school boards and the government were going to start to scrutinize what's coming into the school with the bag lunch, the brown bag lunch, and possibly stop this. What's the movement on that right now?
Yeah, there hasn't been much on that yet. I've been seeing a number of stories in Britain because it seems like a lot of our policies originate from Europe, unfortunately. And they actually have what they call the lunchbox police in Britain, where there will be school employees in schools in Britain that will literally pick through lunches and decide or deem what's healthy and what's unhealthy and what kids can and can't eat. And that's my fear, and we've talked about this before. That's my fear of what's going to happen in America. And I think the USDA will look at that to see if they could do some sort of a rule related to that, because that's how all of this comes to be. The snack banning, snack bake sales, and all of that. This all comes through a rule-making process, not through legislation. And so my fear is that as more parents send home-packed lunches and we're continuing to see declines in sales and participation, that will be the next step for the USDA.
Kyle, I guess it boils down to this. This is America. Gee whiz. This is America with the greatest Constitution. This is America with the Bill of Rights. This is America with freedoms. We're supposed to be a free society, and yet we are allowing the dictates of federal government to say what our kids can and can't eat, and we might possibly have lunchbox police in this country. What happened?
Well, I think a few things, but one, you have an overzealous government that wants to be the parents, and they don't trust parents because I believe they look down their noses at parents because, with their Ivy League degrees and all of that, they feel like they're superior and they know best. And so as that happens, they look for opportunities, whether it's expanding the school lunch program or giving states and local school districts more money, but then, of course, all the strings that come along with that money. But then what goes along with that, unfortunately, is a lot of parents, the first thing that they will see is, oh, my child is going to get a free lunch at school. That's one less thing that I have to do. Mm-hmm. And it saves the parent money, and it saves them time because they don't have to pack a lunch and all of that sort of thing. But look at the trade-off for that. What we're seeing around the country is the trade-off.
I would make a wager, not with you, because I know you agree with me, but I'd make a wager with anybody, anywhere, that I could take 11 kids, a football team, 11 kids, and I could have some that were short, some that were tall, some that were a little bit heavy, some that were skinny, and I could put them on a diet of good, solid food that they will eat, that they will enjoy, that they will grow and prosper with. And I will put them on a dedicated exercise program every day, for at least an hour. And I will guarantee you at the end of 30 days, my team will be healthier than the government's.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to being active, whether it's on the playground or on a team or just in your yard. That's what the focus should be on. Instead, what the government has decided is that it's more important to focus on the inputs and what kids are actually eating. And so, as we see this roll out, we're seeing more school districts scrutinize and actually drop out of the program. We've written about schools in New Hampshire and Vermont and Illinois and all across the country, Georgia, all across the country, dropping out. But then other school districts are scrutinizing whether or not it's still in their best interest to participate in that program, because this one-size-fits-all model that the federal government always hands down doesn't work.
Kyle, as you look at this and you study this, and I give you a lot of credit for following through on these educational stories, but Mama Obama is not a nutritionist, and the people that surround her are nothing more than yes people. So how much worse is this program going to get over the next 2 years while they're still in office?
Well, that's a good question, and parents shouldn't think that when the Obamas leave, that these programs are just going to go away. Because, see, what happened back in 2010, same thing that happened with Obamacare. The Congress passed the law, passed the revisions, but then they gave all sorts of rulemaking authority to the department, and in this case, the Department of Agriculture, that oversees the National School Lunch Program. And so I think that the department is empowered to continue making these sorts of rules. And, we'll have to wait and see, but I think it's really critical that parents, if they're unhappy with it, they continue to speak up, or they start speaking up and saying how they're unhappy with it, so that the USDA will really scrutinize whether or not they actually want to continue pursuing this.
I was going to ask you the other day when I had you on, when you figured the percentages of throwing the food away, literally throwing the tray of food away, versus the changing to a diet that the kids will eat, which one's really going to cost more money? I would say that if they're going to keep throwing the food away, that's going to be a big negative, versus putting something on the tray that they'll eat and they'll pay for. That's going to help the school.
Right, I agree. There was a university study that found that schools across the country throw away about $4 million worth of fruits and vegetables every day.
Wow.
Because the kids take them and they throw them away. And it just is such a waste of money. But the federal government is not, Michelle Obama just wants to press ahead. And in fact, she was on a student broadcast last Friday called Channel 1, and it goes into thousands of classrooms across the country and to about 5 million students. And she basically said, these aren't going anywhere. You just need to live with them, and you need to learn about why we did this. And that's the attitude. It's just this very arrogant, condescending attitude. And she's had this all along. One of the big, reasons she said that she did this was because she was so busy, as her husband was a senator, and she was working, and she didn't have time to, get all the healthy items. And so she wasn't sure what to do when she was in Chicago. And so having these sorts of rules would really help even somebody like her, who has 2 Ivy League degrees, be able to figure out what her children should be eating.
Kyle, while I've got you here this morning, are there any other areas of education that you are really watching and concerned about that are going to be hot-button issues that we need to discuss? What's coming up on the horizon?
Well, one of the things that we are starting to dig more into is the radicalization of sex education in America. Traditionally, sex education has been, science-based, and it hasn't gotten into all sorts of social and cultural issues. And we're seeing schools now adopt more radical, what they call comprehensive sex education programs. And what it's doing is it's teaching, very explicit, very graphic lessons to kids at younger and younger ages. And what it's doing is it's taking power away from parents to teach their children what they have as values, and the school is taking that place now and is teaching these secular progressive values to kids and usurping that power from parents.
Oh, my goodness sakes. You know, you just can't turn around, because if you do, you're going to miss something that's coming right at you. As a parent with younger children in the schools, you've got to be so cognizant, you've got to be so vigilant, and they've got to get involved with the PTA and the school board meetings. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, and parents can't just assume that, those things only happen, those crazy stories are only in San Francisco and, New York City. They're happening across the country and in culturally conservative places. I mean, the example that I'm talking about is Clark County, Nevada, which is Las Vegas, which is the city of Las Vegas is not necessarily conservative, but that area is culturally conservative. And what they're proposing that kindergartners learn, is shocking even for high schoolers. And so parents have got to be involved in that fight, and they've got to fight back when they don't like what's going on.
Absolutely. Kyle, you're the best. Kyle Olson, EAGnews.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on my program. I always look forward to it. Thank you, and God bless.
Thanks, Zeb.
Take care. Man, I'm very appreciative that I have Kyle on my stable of great guests that I can depend on for top-notch information. You know, when you stop and think about it, and I'm going to talk to Gina about this in just a minute, I don't want, and I never would have, if I still have my children living at home, I don't want the government telling me, as a parent, what they can and they can't eat. I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't eat. I don't want food police going through their lunch boxes or their brown bags. I don't want some food police Nimrod standing at the end of a line at a supermarket saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Bell, according to our weight charts, you can't buy this." That's what it's coming to. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. Give me a call. Hey, it's time for the weather. Oh, yeah. Hey, the sky is blue. Let's see. Lennox Home Comfort Systems, of course, with gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps, right through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And they're offering rebates on qualified Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Call them at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Nice day all the way through the weekend. Now, your temperatures are still going to be on the cool side. 61 today, 67 tomorrow. By the time you get to the weekend, you should be seeing some daytime highs in the middle 70s. Other than that, enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, feel the weather you got.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Oh, don't forget Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens. Dean's going to be on our program tomorrow, too, at about 10:30. Well, when you think about life insurance and you think about health insurance, and you go to yourself, I don't have any coverage. Well, you better take care of it. Retirement planning, employee benefits, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dedicated and responsive to your needs. Very thoughtful, very caring, and they're always accessible and ready to help you. So please call them today. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Hey, that would create a lot of new jobs. Just think how much better our economy would be off and how much better we would be because we would be told by experts how to eat.
No, I know you're being facetious, Jerry, because I'm sick and tired of being told anything by people that wear three-piece suits and wingtip shoes that call themselves members of the government. I know you well enough to know that you're not going to be dictated to by anybody, and you're going to spit in their eye and tell them to take a long walk.
I sure would. It's just crazy what they're trying to do. People that's my age, I've lived long enough to know that what I'm doing isn't too far wrong because I'm alive yet.
That's right.
And I'm quite a bit older than you.
Age is irrelevant when it comes to a situation of being dictated to and your life being run by government bureaucrats, Jerry.
Well, and you know, about half the time they change things every year.
Yeah, that's true. That's really the truth. Jerry, God bless you for your call. Thank you so much.
Okay, you have
Appreciate
a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless.
He did. Thank you very much. You know, Deanne is a wonderful, wonderful cook. She is a wonderful nutritionist. And the meals that we have that are prepared by her are extremely nutritious, extremely well balanced, and I'm sure the same could be said in your home. You do not need some overpriced, underworked bureaucrat telling you what you can and cannot eat. And as far as Michelle Obama, this is a joke looking for a laugh. That woman does not have a nutritionist degree. That woman does not have any ability, mostly inability, to tell anybody what to eat, when to eat, or how much to eat, especially when you see them on vacation and she has her great big pearly whites wrapped around a triple cheeseburger. I am fed up with hearing stories about parents saying, my child, my boy, my girl, they're not getting enough to eat at school, they're hungry, they had to smuggle in a bag of Cheetos or whatever. America shouldn't be that way. And I've gone to this story 1,000 times, and I'm sure that Gina would agree with me over at the station, even though she's a generation behind me. We used to have a snack bar in my high school. And at 9:20 after our first class, vroom! Everybody in the high school was down there at the snack bar, maybe for a little Dixie cup of ice cream, maybe for a bag of tater chips, maybe for whatever. And you didn't find very, very many fat kids back in those days because we had mandatory physical education and because we had chores and we had to work. We had to mow the lawn and do a lot of things, clean out the barn. And I am sick and tired of government bureaucrats trying to come in and run our lives. Give me a call. Let me know how you feel. Gina, what about that? What about Kennedy and the dietary guidelines? Have they affected him at school?
Not really. No, they haven't. And, of course...
That's a private school, though, isn't it?
He does go to a private school. But when he does get home, he's still hungry because he's a 7-year-old growing boy.
Absolutely.
So, he has an extra sandwich, when he gets home from school, and a glass of milk, and maybe, something else that's small just to tide him over until dinner time. But, when I was growing up, just like you, I went to several different high schools, and honestly, there were no obese kids, and it's not to, point any fingers or statistics, but that's just the way it was. It was mandatory that you had physical education. Mandatory.
I'm just going to say this.
1 hour a day, you had to do it.
I will get my high school yearbook out, and I will show you all the students' pictures. There is one boy and one girl in my graduating class. Now, I want to give some extenuating circumstances here. I will call the young man at that time Billy. Billy had a glandular problem and was extremely overweight, and unfortunately he died at a very early age because it was uncontrollable, and medicine at that time didn't know how to treat it. The girl had some problems also with stress, and she ate basically because of a very severe home life. 2 kids out of a graduating class of nearly 300. Now that is a very low average.
I think we had, in my graduating class, we had 2 that would have been considered overweight.
Yeah.
Just 2. Yeah. And I had a graduating class of 20. The graduating class was 32, but 29 graduated. But 2 would have been considered overweight. But, it was mandatory back when I went to school and when you went to school that you had physical education 1 hour every day.
There you go.
And my daughter, who just graduated from high school 2 years ago, it was an elective.
Yeah.
And they could do it once, 1 hour a week.
And I guarantee you that if I were the PE teacher, it would be PE. It's not sitting on the bleachers and talking about boyfriends and girlfriends, I'll tell you that.
No, it's doing your running, doing your calisthenics, maybe running some stairs, practicing basketball,
That's
volleyball, tennis, what have you, but it was mandatory. But when my daughter was going to school, and she just graduated 2 years ago, it was an elective, and they only had to do it once a week.
Oh, see, I'm glad to hear you say that. Did I hear the moo of the cow?
Yes, you did.
Okay, quick call, and then I got to do a commercial. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. When I went to high school, we had what they call a co-op. It's a place where you could buy the little goodies here and there, a candy bar, popcorn, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was kind of nice. But the problem is now, while we're trying to starve our kids at school, when they come home, they're completely out of control.
Yeah.
They're hungry. They'll eat anything in sight.
You better believe it. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They will take anything and start cramming it. I'm not trying to be funny. It's the truth.
No,
and I feel sorry for these kids because all day long they've tried to concentrate on their studies. They've tried to concentrate on being good little citizens at the school for fear of reprimands. They're hungry. Their stomachs are growling. They're being fed material that they don't like. They won't eat. It goes in the trash. It's costing the taxpayers money, and this is sheer lunacy.
Most states have a balanced budget. Idaho is one of them, thank goodness. Why can't we run our own programs? My gosh, we don't need the government to tell us what to do.
No, and it's high time that we told the government, honestly, to just get lost. In many, many respects, we need to get away from them and basically give them a drop kick through the goalpost of life, not to be seen again.
I was a little disappointed on this morning. I was watching the local news on KMVP, and they had Debbie Critchfield, who's the chairman of the school board, and she was kind of talking in favor of Common Core, and I didn't think she was in favor of it, but maybe she is.
Well, we're going to be having a lot more programs on Common Core, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about Common Core, not only in this area, but across the board, because a lot of people are becoming disenfranchised with it. Hey, Keith, I got to do a quick commercial and then go to the news. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
See you later. Bye.
Harvest of savings at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Oh, my goodness, they do a great job for you there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. They've got all the floor coverings. They've got all your carpet, rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet, and to beautify your home. And don't forget all the mattress. Oh, my goodness, they got mattresses of all kinds, all styles, and you'll get a good night's sleep. Primarily because you took my advice and went into Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More and talked to these wonderful people. They've got everything for the beautification and the comfort of your home at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Caller, I've got exactly 30 seconds. Real fast. Go.
Yes, Debbie Critchfield is in favor of Common Core, and I know and like her a ton. It is a very divisive issue. And then also, if you don't feed these children the proper things, if they don't get certain amounts of fat, their brains don't function right, and they can't think. And then to be struggling with this new math from Common Core, the struggle, they get to believing that they aren't capable of anything. You see, and that's not at all what these children need to be believing.
I agree.
They're capable of anything. Believing they're incapable of anything.
I looked at one of the, I got to go, but I'll tell you this much, buddy. Yeah. I looked at one of the Common Core math problems the other day, and I studied that thing, and I backed up and put the pencil down and said, I need a timeout. I'll see you later. I got to go to the news. Thanks, Randy. I couldn't figure that thing out. Hey, we'll be back in 6 minutes. And don't forget Brian Fairchild with the CIA will be coming up at 10:06. Good thing I was ready to go. Hi, Gina. Still having fun, aren't you? Oh, dear. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And then, of course, all of our great advertisers that include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Oberlin and Burley. And our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage. Call them at 734-6969. Hey, before we get our guest on the phone, today, the menu at the Chadwick Sports Grill includes this special. I hope I say this right because Chef Boyargina probably will get on and correct me. Balsamic grilled chicken. Is that how you say that? With roasted tomatoes and spinach. I love spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Anyway, veggies and choice potato and soup. All of this really, really good. I think it's balsamic grilled chicken. Or it could be balsamic. Or, well, never mind. Just go on in and order. It's going to be really good at 139 West Main in Burley. The Chadwick Sports Grill. Nice people, great menu, serving you. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have our dear friend, and that, of course, is Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative and a dear, dear friend that's been with us now for a couple of years. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Doing just fine, Zeb. How are you today?
One word, very, very nervous. I'm really becoming more cautious every day as to what's going on. I'm being more cognizant of my surroundings. I'm being more aware of what is going on in the world today, more so than ever before. And I think all Americans should adopt that kind of a philosophy. Do you think I'm right or wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. And you know, Zeb, when things can't get any worse, when you think they can't get any worse, the administration goes and makes it worse. And by that, what I'm referring to is that the Justice Department is about ready to, launch a bunch of prohibitions against religious profiling. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, Zeb, is because this group that we're up against, the Islamic State, is nothing if not religious. This is the whole Salafi jihad movement that we've been fighting since 9/11 is a religious movement. And what's made matters even worse is because the guy who runs the Islamic State, whose name is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, he has become the new caliph, right? The caliph of the caliphate. The caliphate is nothing but a religious organization. It is the head of all of Muslims. So Muslims internationally, are supposed to kowtow to this guy. So he has transformed himself and transcended his role as a terrorist commander of some kind of a small Al-Qaeda unit to become a religious icon and a political leader. And it's right at this time that the administration has decided to disallow any of our national security agencies from pursuing that religious aspect. That's a terrible situation, Zeb.
Well, no, wait, I'm totally confused. I mean, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I'll bet you $10 to your 11 it's going to be a duck. And why are we saying we can't religious profile? I mean, it's not some Methodist in Southern Illinois that's causing all this trouble. Why can't we profile? This is idiocy.
Well, I think I think we all pretty much know it's the president's ideological approach to American politics, and this has nothing to do. His prohibition is ideological, but it's not. It has no reality in whatsoever in national security affairs. In fact, the national security establishment went to him and went to the Justice Department and said, look, you have to give us an exemption on this because, this has something to do with religion, guys. And they said, no, we're just going to put the blanket prohibition out. So it's an ideological approach that the president takes to life in American politics, which is 100%, 180 degrees from reality.
So what?
And that's the only way to explain it, Zeb.
Yeah, well, what does this mean, though, Brian? I mean, as far as they won't have any religious profiling. I mean, I don't quite understand the negativity because it's far, far above me. If they can't say that it is the duck that we talked about, how are they going to describe this? How are they going to go after these people if they don't have, quote-unquote, religious profiling, if they're involved with the Islamic Muslim religion?
Absolutely, and this isn't the first time this has happened either, Zeb. In 2010, it was April 2010 to be exact, the president at that point took all references to Islam and religion out of the national security documents.
Oh boy!
You know, I used to, as you know, I used to train. I trained at CIA. I trained the FBI. I trained about 10,000 police officers in this exact topic. And around 2010, the president said, no, you guys can't hear this stuff anymore. And so he purged all training material and all reference by national security agencies to anything that had to do with religion and terrorism in the same sentence. So you could no longer say radical Islam. You could no longer say Islamists. You could no longer say jihadis. And it turned to the only thing you can say is violent extremists.
Oh, brother.
And like I mentioned last time I was on your program, that does not leave you any place to go as a counterterrorism officer, because you can't run down to the local violent extremist community or the violent extremist union and find violent extremists. Now, if you're allowed to understand what the enemy is, and you know that they come from a Salafi jihadi background, well, you can find those guys in a certain specific community. But you can't go after violent extremists. And so now the president, and even knowing that, and having ISIS, become so large, so fast, the president is still moving forward on ways to restrict the national security agencies from working this problem. And it's almost unbelievable. If you were writing a bad novel, you could not come up with this storyline because your listeners would reject it and throw the book away.
I do not understand. I'm sorry, I'm just a big dumb old cowboy, I guess, in southern Idaho, but I don't understand how you can legislate and regulate verbiage to make it supposedly politically correct in this day and age and hide the semantics of what really we're looking for. For what purpose? The bad guys are the bad guys. Go get them.
That's exactly right. The bad guys are the bad guys. And in warfare and in intelligence, any kind of a competition, you have to understand the enemy. I don't care if you're just a boxer. Boxers study their competitors before they go into the ring. They know what the guy's strengths and weaknesses are. And in warfare, obviously, you have to know that. Until you define the enemy, and because the only way you can understand the enemy, Zeb, is by defining the enemy. You can't just go in and fight some guy. Oh, well, there's a bunch of guys that don't like us, let's go fight them. You have to actually understand who they are. Are they communist forces? Are they Viet Cong? Are they Viet Minh? Are they Nazi Germans? Who is the enemy, and how should we fight this enemy? So by not enabling the national security agencies to define the enemy, we are ever going to be on the back foot, and we're never going to be able to defeat this enemy, because the only way you can really defeat this enemy is stop the ideology.
Absolutely.
And restrict the ideology being taught to the next generation of Muslims as much as you possibly can. And you can't do that under the president's guidelines. You just absolutely cannot do that.
Okay. Now, you of anybody can answer this question so that even I can understand it. Why, in your opinion, would the leader of the free world, twice elected, which should have shown the American public how unmistake proof they are, why in the world would Obama want to do this? Is he being a protectionist for them? Is there something under the table we don't know? I mean, tell me why. I don't understand.
You and me both, brother. I've been trying to figure this out ever since the president was elected. But I can tell you that he has certainly, absolutely, without any question, he has taken a soft line towards, Islam and the Islamic powers. In 2009, one of his first overseas speeches was in Cairo, Egypt. And the speech itself was not factually correct. He blamed the United States and, Western powers and colonialism for much of the problem that the Middle East was going through now, and basically, took the blame on us rather than on them. And from that point on, he's just been moving forward. Then in 2010, he created a secret policy that has since come out in leaked documents, and he created a policy towards the Muslim Brotherhood, where he was going to support the Muslim Brotherhood in countries around the Middle East, while getting rid of all the guys that we had been dealing with in the Middle East, like Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, who we had a relationship with, a strategic relationship with for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get rid of those guys and allow the Muslim Brotherhood to come in, and somehow, in the president's mind, in the president's ideology, the Muslim Brotherhood was going to bring the Middle East into a new era. And of course, that never happened, and it never could happen. Because the Muslim Brotherhood, Deb, is just, the Salafi jihadi movement is a continuum. Not every single person in that movement is a fighter out on, the front lines beheading people.
Right.
There is an invisible army behind every one of those guys who is on the battleground beheading somebody. And that's the invisible support army. And the Muslim Brotherhood fits into that aspect of the jihad. They are the folks that initially spread the ideology. So where the president came up with this idea, I just can't tell you. And I bet you, a year after he's out of office, books will start appearing and insiders will start telling tales, and we'll find that there's a whole picture there that we didn't understand. But that's what's going to happen. And until then, until some insiders give us specific insights, we're just not going to know exactly why he does the things he does.
Brian, what does this do with these kind of edicts from the President of the United States that is being pictured and perceived as the softest, most cowardly president that this country has ever had? What does this do to confine and possibly kill ISIS? To me, it's going to absolutely open the door for more of their atrocities. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, these guys understand us better than they understand us way better than we understand them. I mean, there's no doubt whatsoever about that. They have us beaten when it comes to social media, propaganda, having a narrative that they constantly put out there, attracting people to their side. I mean, they have us beat 100%. So they just perceive us as being weak. Now, one of the reasons they want to take us on is because we're the guys. See, it's not all about them against us. It's them against us because what we do is we support Middle Eastern regimes that they're trying to unseat and take over, right? Mm-hmm. They want to establish their caliphate first, of course, throughout the Middle East, and then move it throughout the world.
Right.
So we're the guys that are giving the Saudis and the Jordanians and the Lebanese and the Iraqis, we're giving them intelligence, we're giving them military assistance, we're giving them weapons and so forth and so on. So we're really a thorn in their side. So they figure if they can take us on to the point where we're exhausted, where we say, and the American people say, enough, I don't want to have anything to do with the Middle East ever again. Let us get out of here. That they will then be left free to go and do what they want. Mm-hmm. And so they see us as a weak sister right now, and what they're trying to do is exhaust us. And the way we go about fighting them in this piecemeal fashion without any strategy is working right into their hands.
Brian, I read your last piece about Baghdadi, and I guess the word that best describes how I felt when I finished it was trembling a little bit with fear because of the power I guess that's a good summation, the power of what this Baghdadi will have over that region of the world and possibly over the world in itself. This man, unless I read what you had written wrong, this man is looking to be the most powerful figure in this movement and have more power than ever before, more so than Osama bin Laden or anybody else. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I would say at this point in time that he does have more power than Ayman al-Zawahiri and Al-Qaeda. You know, they're actually fighting a war between each other.
Yeah.
And the reason they're fighting the war is on religious complaints. Baghdadi is much more religiously strict than Ayman al-Zawahiri and bin Laden ever was. So now this guy has transcended. He's just not a terrorist commander anymore. He is the caliph. Now, whether this ever succeeds or not is irrelevant. But as far as he and his people are concerned, he leads the entire 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. And the majority of those Muslims do not follow him. But about 180 to 300 million of them do. And, people are always led by a minority that's organized and strong. And so, he has become a religious and political icon for many in the Muslim community. He's got oil, he's got wheat, he's got taxes, he runs a mini-state. That mini-state is larger than the United Kingdom. And it just keeps expanding. And it expanded, it tripled. CIA itself said that it tripled from the time the caliphate was announced to like 2 months afterwards. The size tripled, which shows you that the religious pull, not the terrorist pull, but the religious pull and influence that he has on many of the Muslims around the world. It's going to continue to grow exponentially. As the size grows exponentially, its power and its danger to us and the rest of the world grows exponentially.
All right, now
that's the situation we find ourselves in now, Zeb.
I want you to just close your eyes for a second, and I want you to envision you, Brian Fairchild, in the Oval Office and the President of the United States. What should the president be doing right now that Obama is not doing and is, quite frankly, too cowardly to do? What should he be doing?
Well, there are several things. The first thing is I would hire the best people who understood the world, and especially the Middle East, the best. I mean, I would go and I would find every businessman who's done business in the Middle East and really understands it. Every Harvard professor, every person who has expertise, a deep understanding of the Middle East, and I would get them on my team, and I would have them start forging out a strategy in the Middle East, not just a reactionary policy to this terrorist group or that terrorist group or what this country says or that country says. I would want to know exactly what U.S. strategy should be in the Middle East and how it's going to affect and support American national security interests. Then, in the initial sense, I would have basically an all-out military blitz of these guys. And I'm sorry, at this point, because we're so far behind the eight ball, we need American troops on the ground. I mean, I don't like the idea of having American troops on the ground more than any other American. But because of the threat, and because these guys will never be routed unless we have our troops on the ground and can control those troops and know their expertise, we're never going to get rid of these guys. But we've got to have an overall strategy that makes sense. We've got to, support the national security interests of the United States, and we have to defeat this foe. So it's on a multi-levels that a new president should operate.
Let me ask you this, though, Brian, and I'm almost out of time, but what about a mercenary force of, let's say, 25 to 30,000 troops that are comprised from various countries, be it France, be it Germany, be it Spain, be it the United Kingdom, be it us, a mercenary force that could go in there and take the gloves off, and their one mission option is to defeat and kill and get rid of ISIS. What about a mercenary force versus a U.S. force or whatever?
No, well, my personal opinion, Zeb, is I don't like the idea of a mercenary force. In fact, if you take it to its extreme, we should probably still have a draft, and we should still probably have a citizen army, because we're talking about our democracy. And the more you get away from a citizen army, the less people in the United States are affected by things that happen overseas. If people's sons and daughters were in direct danger, and not just those from a voluntary military force, but from the population, a whole lot more people would inform themselves of what the problems are overseas and take more of an interest in it, therefore taking more of an interest in our democracy. If you go and you start outsourcing all of these things, I mean, then the natural progression is, well, you don't need to have any national security institutions. Why don't we outsource all intelligence? Why don't we outsource all police work? Let's not even have a police force. Let's just have ex-military guys come in who are tough and clean up the towns. I mean, if you start going down that road, Zeb, you no longer have a democracy, and you have an elitist bunch of people running the key aspects of a democracy, both domestically and overseas, and I just don't see that working for us.
One final thought. We are just literally weeks away from the midterm elections, Brian, and I still see the Republicans tripping over their own feet instead of being more aggressive. Should they, the Republicans, really amplify what's going on in the White House to show the American public that they're on top of it?
Well, I think absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, it seems like, I think that we're probably going to, we're going to take the Senate in the election, and then we're going to have both the House and the Senate. But my greatest fear is that owning the House and Senate will not do much for us, because there's no plan, and there's no strategy, and there's no consensus within the Republican Party as to where to go and what to do, either domestically or overseas. So, I can't imagine a better political situation for an opposition to have than President Barack Obama. But at the same time, I don't see the opposition having a decent, cogent, competent plan and vision for the future that they can then initiate once they take over both the House and the Senate. So I'm scared about what's going to happen there too, Zed.
You're the best. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just honored and privileged to have this man on my program, Brian Fairchild, a former CIA operative, a great writer. And Brian, by the way, how can people follow your writings? Give us the blog, please.
Well, they can just go to www.blindeagle.info, and that's where my site is. And I've just done a couple of things on Neil Cavuto and a couple of other TV shows and specials. I've got that in a special button called In the News, and they can get the analysis, see what's been going on lately, and I'd just love to have them come.
All right. Well, listen, God bless you, and please come back soon. I've got thousands more questions. Thank you, Brian Fairchild. We'll be in touch. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Bye-bye.
You bet. Take care. Wow. I mean, when I listen to Brian, and he is a straight shooter. He's been there, had his boots on the ground. He knows. And I listen to him and I go, what in the world is this president doing? What is he trying to accomplish? What is he trying to do? Where is he going and leading us down these blind paths to oblivion? You got to ask yourself that. And now, taking away the quote-unquote religious profiling? Oh, my goodness. And before we send it back over to Gina, I want to remind you Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Please call them at Ramsey's at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money. They sell warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. We're going to take a little break and be back in 3 minutes. Thank you.
And now Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. Hey, don't forget, we talked to Cade the other day, and Rogge Auction is going to have a great big community sale this coming Saturday, October 4th at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds. Starting time, 11 a.m. They had a great sale in the spring. They're going to have another great sale this coming Saturday. Don't miss it. Vehicles and household goods and guns and farm equipment. I'm telling you, and you can sign up your consignments right through Friday night. Okay, call Cade at 431-0074 or Ron at 316-0318 or go to their website, RoggeAuctions.com. Big sale this Saturday at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds. Community sale, October 4th, 11 a.m. Put on by Rogge Auctions. You know, in this program, I've had the opportunity over the years to meet a lot of people and share the program with a lot of folks and make some friendships that I hope endure forever. And one of those friends is on the program with me right now, a former representative for the state of Idaho and a great farmer and just all in all, a great guy. Mr. Bert Stevenson, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, Zeb Bell. How are you doing?
The weather is changing a little bit, and those that say that fat people don't get chilly are wrong.
I can tell you that we love rain, but sometimes we'd like it to be some other time.
I understand, right during harvest and everything. Bert, speaking of rain, you are on the governor's appointment to the Idaho State Water Board, and last spring, boy, things didn't look so good. How's the water situation right now, today, going into an overlook for next spring?
Well, we're in a much better shape than we were a year ago. It looks like right now with the upper Snake River reservoirs are about 41% full. A year ago, they were down in the low 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we come into the year with a really good a hope. And it does some other things for us, too, because if we have a normal water year, then there'll have to be some releases, and then we'll be able to use that water for recharge.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the old-timers and some of the farmers' almanacs, and some people have said, look out in the weather business. I was talking to Michael Rogers yesterday, as a matter of fact, and he said this area could have a very severe winter. What are your thoughts about the snowpack, and if we're at 41% now, coming up spring, if we had a good winter, we might be in pretty good shape?
Well, the snowpack is really what makes our solves our water problems for the year, because when we have that snow in the higher country, then it comes off later in the season, and we have more natural flow in the river. And for the surface water users as well as storage water, it just helps us immensely.
Bert, as far as the water situation and all those that have different ideas about where water should go, who owns the water, etc., and then the government saying, well, we'll try to move some over here, we'll take this water, etc. What about our water here in southern Idaho? Are there more people wanting it and trying to take it away from us?
Well, Zeb, Nevada has... we used to worry about California taking it. Right now, Nevada would like to have some of Idaho's water, but it's not a real threat right now. We've gone through the adjudication. We can justify everything on the Snake River as far as we were using the water. We're in that process now in northern Idaho on the Spokane River, getting the water rights there solidified up there, and so we're working on that, and that's not one of the real changes that we see, Zeb, is the cropping process or cropping rotations here in southern and eastern Idaho, where we used to grow lots of beans and grain. We've switched now to corn and alfalfa, which is considerably more water consumed by those crops than those other crops that we had.
But now, when you say that, Bert, that's kind of a double-edged sword, because the dairy business has moved in here, and quite frankly, at first, everybody was welcoming them in with open arms because of the economy, and it really helped the state coffers, etc. But they need the in-state growth of corn and alfalfa. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, right?
Well, what it forces us to do, Zeb, is to manage our water a little better than we have in the past. One of the things that we have been working on this past summer is getting contracts in place so that we can recharge water through the winter months. And we're going to do that through the Twin Falls Canal Company. We've signed a contract with them, the Northside and the Milner-Gooding canals. See, years ago they used to run water all winter in those canals.
Right.
And by the state coming in and helping them with some of those costs, then they're able to continue that, and we hope that will be successful. The other things that we're doing is trying to find some pumping places where we can pump out of the Milner Reservoir. We have to have 27,000 CFS come past Minidoka Dam, because that's what it's required to meet the Bureau's Reclamation's power right up there. Unless we can use that water when it hits the Milner Pool, then we don't have access to that through the winter months. And I think we're getting some really good plans to do that. We're really putting an effort into it.
Bert, another thing that I was going to ask you about is with a good solid winter and runoff, etc., are there chances that we might have a good aquifer recharge?
Well, Zeb, what's happening to us now, we'll get some recharge from the natural part of it. But what we've got to do is get these recharge sites where we're injecting that water in. It's the same water, but we're just forcing it in. Where people have moved to the sprinkler system, and it's interesting, the hearings and stuff we've had up on the Galloway and the Arrow Rock Dam, the environmental community says, oh, you've got to conserve water. You don't need these dams. Just conserve water. Well, Zeb, that's the thing that's got us part of the problem we got, is we've conserved so much water putting it on the ground that our aquifer's not being recharged.
Absolutely. Now, talking about the dams on the Snake and the Columbia, I always get worried when I don't hear news stories, or I don't read about news stories, or I don't see about news stories where the environmentalists are trying to take the dams apart brick by brick. What are your fears about this next year? Are they going to come back and say they want to breach all the dams and start that whole thing all over again?
Zeb, I'm not hearing a lot on that. The one area that I am a little concerned about is we're in the process now of the State Department of defining what we're going to do with the Columbia River Treaty. From our position, from the irrigators' position and Idaho's position, we don't want them to come up and start regulating our reservoirs in eastern Idaho and on the upper Snake. There is some movement to want to, if we have to have flood releases, and that's if we only use it for what it was originally for, is flood and power generation. But we have now the First Nations from Canada want to be involved, and of course they have lots of fish issues that they would like to solve with water, and they would like to release that water at different times.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the issues that we're watching really closely.
Well, I was going to say, the issues that you're watching. Now, tell us a little bit about the board you're on and your duties that you perform for the state of Idaho and for the governor directly. I mean, what are you supposed to be doing on the board that you serve on?
Well, Zeb, the Idaho Water Resource Board is we can hold water rights for the benefit of the state of Idaho. The Department of Water Resources can't hold water rights. They're an administrative body where and there is statutorily a definition between the Department of Water Resources and the Water Resource Board, and ours is to advise. And yet, one of the things that the governor has charged us with, and we're working quite hard on, is sustainability of water, which requires some additional dams and what we've done there at Mountain Home to help protect the Air Base's water right. We hold now a water right that the state has purchased to ensure Mountain Home a secure water right.
Now, Bert, farming in general, you're a farmer over there on the north side, have been almost all your life. What about farming? I mean, this year was kind of a devastating year from August on with all the rain. I mean, the people that had barley contracts, I mean, a lot of that went by the wayside. Hay contracts, I mean, hay was wasted. I know myself personally, it went down to about the fourth or fifth tier in a stack of hay with the moisture. We didn't get it covered in time. It's been kind of a bad year for a lot of farmers.
Well, Zeb, and not only that, but this right now, potato prices are about as low as they've ever been. They're down now below the cost of production. These people are going to be in a real tight place. We've imported enough sugar now that our sugar prices are down probably the lowest they've been in the last 15 years.
So
this will take money from the state coffers, whether we like it or whether we don't. That's the way it is. The ones that's created by the water, there isn't much we can do about that because a malting company can't malt sprouted barley, and that's one of the facts of life that we live with. And so then you overload the feed barley market, and the price there drops down.
Bert, let me ask you this. It's amazing to me that the federal government, and especially this administration, being run by, quite frankly, the environmental movement, how can they be so naive, and basically, in blunt terms, how can they be so stupid in thinking that their lack of energy program, just centered around possibly solar and wind energy, is going to create a society where you, a farmer, can stay in existence? You can't push those big John Deeres down through the field with a propeller. Where do they think that agriculture and providing food for the world is going to come from without an energy program?
Zeb, did you ever think you would see the time when we were thrilled that the price of gas would be down below $3?
I know it.
And here it is, and now everybody's excited about that, when it should be down around the $1 mark or $1.50. We have that ability if we could. The only way that the reason that the price of sugar's down where it is we have an overproduction. We can do the same thing with energy if they would let us drill and process.
But
the oil.
The problem I see in this country with this administration and possibly to the next administration, if heaven forbid the Democrats win 2 in a row, is that this country cannot exist on a non-progressive basis. We need energy. We've got enough of the fracking. We've got enough of the oil production. We've got enough of everything to exist for thousands of years, but they won't let anything happen. And solar and wind is not going to run a progressive growing economy.
Well, the thing that made our country the great country that it is that we've been able to have an abundance of energy, and we were allowed to use that energy. It isn't just bad enough now not to have it, but the federal people don't want you to use what you do have.
That's exactly right. Now, one last thought here this morning, Bert. You, of course, served our state for a long time as a representative, and you know the importance of getting people to the polls and go vote. And I'm really worried about the midterm elections coming up in just a matter of weeks, as a matter of fact. How are we going to instill in people the importance of exercising their privilege of going to vote? I mean, I'm at a loss. Tell me.
Zeb, I think people have to think about when they say, well, it isn't going to make any difference. I can tell you that it will make a difference if you go and vote. One of the things that I'm really concerned about in my own read is when I read in the paper that people are going to vote for a Democrat because they're unhappy with the split in the Republican Party.
Right.
Geez, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Just because I don't agree with somebody on everything doesn't mean I can't be their friend and we can't work through those things. But if you change it, I don't know whether you saw yesterday's local paper.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Here the paper put Otter's name under Bokoff's picture and Bokoff's name under Otter's picture. Now, doesn't that tell you that people really don't pay much attention to what's going on?
Well, and I commented on that yesterday, and I'm going to be very blunt about it. I've had an axe to grind against the Times News and, quite frankly, kind of a slipshod attitude. But to make that kind of a mistake against a governor that has served the terms that he has for the state of Idaho, and to give the challengers the top billing and put the governor last and then put the wrong name on there, I found that inexcusable. They can blame it on somebody that might be a part-time worker that's a proofreader, but really this problem goes right to the top.
Unfortunately, it does, Zeb, but people have to go out and vote, and vote for whoever you want. I don't want to tell people that they can't vote for somebody else, but think about who you're voting for and what's gonna be accomplished.
Absolutely.
I've had people say I disagree with Bush, and so I'm going to vote for the other guy. You remember, you get the whole package.
That's right.
Get just the parts you like.
That is exactly the truth, and I'm so glad to hear you say that. They might pick and choose one item and think that's going to be the catch-all and the panacea to solve all the problems, and it's not. I totally agree with what you said, but in my job, in my business, I have to urge people to go vote, and I hope and pray that we don't see something as absolutely pitiful as a 25% turnout.
Well, Zeb, that's one of the problems that one of the ways we've ended up where we're at is because people haven't gone and voted.
I agree. Bert,
and that's unfortunate.
Bert, let me ask you one final thought here. As you look at the state of Idaho and where we're at as far as other states in the Northwest, and you have served many, many terms in the legislature, when you look at the neighboring states, Montana, Utah, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, how do you think we still stand as far as being one of the main leaders out of the Northwest?
Well, Zeb, other than Wyoming has a tremendous amount of oil, and so financially they're in pretty good shape. Our budget is balanced. We haven't done as much as we want. But remember that Washington and California, Nevada, come through this recession with a tremendous amount of debt. We didn't. And the other thing that irritates me, probably as much as anything, is we always talk about we're last with education as if money would solve the problem. And part of that problem has to be solved at home with parents and their support of the kids.
Absolutely.
Or their discipline of kids. That's part of our problem with our schools is the lack of discipline.
I could not agree more. It is such a treat to have you on the program again. God's blessings to my dear friend. Say hello to your lovely wife, and please come back soon. Representative Bert Stevenson, God bless you, my friend. Thanks.
Zeb, can I make one comment?
Certainly, go ahead.
At 12 o'clock noon today at Maury's Steakhouse, Jim Risch is going to be there to meet people, and if you've got an axe to grind with Jim Risch, show up. The only cost is $10 for the meal you get, and if you don't want to eat, you don't have to pay.
All right.
But you can talk to Jim, and he'll be there today at noon.
All right. Bert Stevenson, thank you so much. Tell
Thanks,
Jim I
Ed.
said hello.
Jim,
Thank you. God bless you, my friend. Thanks.
Bye.
I always enjoyed talking to Bert, and I'm so glad to have him back on the air this morning. Thank you very much, former Representative Bert Stevenson. We're going to do the weather real quick, and the weather this hour is brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. And believe me, they're locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. And they sell taste one bite at a time. You've got to try one of their delicious, absolutely melt in your mouth, fantastic marinated tri-tips. Oh my, it is fantabulous. They guarantee everything they sell. Scarro's Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Nice day all the way through the weekend. Now, your temperatures are still going to be on the cool side. 61 today, 67 tomorrow. By the time you get to the weekend, you should be seeing some daytime highs in the middle 70s. Other than that, enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, feel the weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Sounds pretty good. Don't forget your hometown meat cutter, and they are good. They guarantee everything they sell. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They are selling taste one bite at a time. Wow, a lot of things on the program this morning. Need to check in with the lovely Gina. Gina, thanks for everything. It's been a good job. You've kept everything running smoothly, even though there was a slight condemnation of the computer system.
Twice. Not once, but twice.
I loved it. I just wished I could have been a little mouse in the corner listening to this.
I think I might have made your ears bleed had you have been here.
You know, I want to ask you something, though, and I've only got a couple of minutes. I got to do a commercial, but when I listened this morning to Brian Fairchild, and Brian is such a dear friend, and he lays everything out very explicitly and very poignantly. He has just recently been on with Glenn Beck. He recently has been on with the afternoon show on Fox. Neil Cavuto. And his career has just really taken off as being an expert on what's happening over in the Middle East. But what he said this morning, it was very chilling. That this administration basically is kowtowing and bowing to the bad guys.
And why do you think that is?
Okay, I'm going to be very blunt about it. I have said for the last 6 years, I did not trust Obama. I do not trust his ideology. I think his ideology is very copacetic and bending to the people that are in the Middle East for their means and methods, and my trust factor is at zero for what this man might try to do.
I'm in complete agreement. He's just so unpredictable, and from what I'm seeing, which makes me so disheartened, is because I really did vote for this guy. He's not for the American people like he said he was. He's really not.
I ran into a lady that's a little bit older than me the other day, and she came up and she said, you know something, Zeb, I voted for Obama. And she said, I listened to you and what you said about him 6 years ago, and she said, I took issue with you, and I was really mad. And she said, I stopped listening to your program because of what you said. And she said, I just came up to apologize because you were right, and this man is not to be trusted.
He's not. I mean, everything that I feel totally duped. I feel lied to. I feel like he thinks that I'm just a sheeple. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm highly educated, and I'm almost ashamed of myself that I even voted for this guy, not once but twice.
Amen. Gina, you did a great job today. Thank you so much. Don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Great big tire sale going on right now. I mean, what more can you say? All the tires are on sale for all your different driving needs, for all the vehicles, all the different tread designs. They will help you with the best tire value promise in the industry, lifetime tire and mileage care. There it is, laid out for you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And also the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, struts, batteries, all of this and much more with the best in service. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley. Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run the way things were, the way things ought to be. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. Take care.